Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Aerial Survey Image Processing Solutions that Scale with Your Business. Once again, we're very appreciative of you taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us wherever you are in the world, and we hope that you enjoy this webinar. So without further ado, we're going to continue on and we'll start with some housekeeping notes. So first of all of your lines will be muted during the presentation. However, if you wish to ask a question, or if any questions come up throughout the presentation, please feel free to type your question into the questions panel. We will have a Q&A or a question and answer period at the end of this webinar, where we will do our best to get to everybody's question. I'm going to start off by introducing our presenters today. So first, we have Griffin Williams, who is our solutions engineer and really the star of today's show. Welcome, Griffin.
Thank you very much, Sean. Looking forward to it today. And as Sean introduced, my name is Griffin Williams. I am a solutions engineer at Catalyst, and I've been working with clients to help them reach their aerial processing goals for a little bit over a year and a half now. So really excited to do this presentation today, and thanks for the introduction, Sean.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Griffin. We're really glad to have you here today. So myself, Sean Malamed, I'll be your host. I'm a product marketing manager here at Catalyst, so I'm really excited to be here and present the solution to everyone who's joined us today. And we're excited to showcase some of our new offerings and some of the new and easier ways to access our technology. So once again, with that, we'll just continue forward and begin the show. So our agenda for today is we're going to do a brief introduction about Catalyst Enterprise and showcase how we've made it more scalable and more flexible than ever. We're then going to jump in very quickly into a demonstration where we're going to touch on how take a look at our optimized aerial image processing workflows and how we have helped automate that pipeline. Then we're going to showcase some of our very important quality assurance and some of the process efficiencies that we can offer through our quality assurance solutions, particularly taking a focused look at democratization of your quality assurance processes. So I'm really excited to showcase some of those capabilities. And then at the end, as I said, this is a bit of a shorter webinar than what we're used to doing. So we're going to finish off with a questions and answer period where you can ask our team anything that comes to mind about our topic or anything else around our company. So once again, really appreciate your time here. So starting off, we launched the Catalyst brand back in October. So our whole goal with this was to make our technology and make our science more accessible to the community, both the geospatial community as well as to end users who wish to capitalize and benefit from geospatial information extracted from Earth data, whether that be Earth imagery or other types of Earth data. So with this, we've come up with a number of ways of repackaging our licensing as well as our products and our sciences to make it more accessible. However, we're going to continue to provide and develop the same science that you've come to expect in terms of the quality of the science that we deliver and bring to the market. So the product lines or solution lines that we have here at Catalyst include Catalyst Professional. So this is our formerly Geomatica. So this has now been rebranded Catalyst Professional. Then there's the product that we're going to get into today in this presentation is the Catalyst Enterprise, which is formerly GXL. Moving on to three of our new offerings, so Catalyst Microservices, Catalyst OEM, and Catalyst Insights that are all designed around meeting some of the new challenges and trends that we're seeing or are starting to become more prevalent in the industry, especially around cloud processing and bringing insights to non-geospatial experts around the world. So focusing on our product, Catalyst Enterprise. So this once again was formerly GXL. So some of you who are already familiar with our company and our product, you might know this as our GXL system, but this has been rebranded under Catalyst Enterprise, and it's designed as a scalable solution for really doing any type of Earth image processing. So this is for projects of any size now, and that's something that's I think going to be different to the community that's already familiar with it, is that we've now packaged this in a way and made it much more accessible to a variety to be consumed and used by a variety of different types of businesses and organizations, where the size of your project is no longer the defining factor as to whether this is the right solution for you. So of course, it's a distributed processing solution that's designed to be able to manage high volumes of both aerial and satellite imagery, depending on the workflow that you've implemented. But now we've made it through our new licensing and mechanisms and how we package this, we've now made it far more accessible to a variety of different organizations. And once again, this can be implemented as a end-to-end solution, depending on your workflow, or it can be integrated into your solution and run as one component of your solution within your technology stack. Catalyst Enterprise, really the workflows that are implemented within Catalyst Enterprise are either for satellite image processing or for aerial image processing. So this is going to be the focus once again of today's presentation, is really just focusing on the aerial image processing workflows. So this includes, but is not limited to, so we're agnostic when it comes to AT support, so aerial and triangulation support. So there's a variety of different formats that we can support directly through our system. We also have our own automated AT enhancing capabilities. So we have the ability for you to either generate your EO and camera calibration within our system, or more commonly what we see customers doing is using it to improve their current AT and camera calibration products that they're using as an input into the system. We also, of course, have our ortho-mosaicing workflow, our DSM and DTM extraction that we're going to walk you through today, true orthorectification, and a variety of other analytical capabilities and workflows that can be extended onto the system. So come speak to us about these different capabilities and workflows. So to take a quick look at Catalyst Enterprise, so one of the things we're really emphasizing, especially in this webinar, is how truly scalable of a solution this is, and how this is really designed to meet the ebbs and flows of your processing demand, as we're starting to see within a lot of our aerial customers, where they have high seasons where they need to process a lot of imagery, and then there's low seasons where their processing requirements may not be as heavy. And what we've done with the repackaging of our licensing around Catalyst Enterprise is made it truly scalable, so that it scales up, but also, just as importantly, can scale back down in an effective way. So let's imagine here in this thought experiment that you have your standard demand, which is signified by that one plane and the imagery coming off of that plane. So this is the standard demand that perhaps you would be expect to have throughout the majority of your working season. Now, let's imagine all of a sudden you have the opportunity to take on new projects, which is then represented by the second plan. And now the demand has gone up, but your processing capacity has remained the same at this point. So what we give you with the ability of Catalyst Enterprise is the ability to add new processing throughput. So the ability to open up capacity with our system, as you can see here, by either adding new processing servers or licensing additional processing cores in order to scale up that processing capacity, so you can take on that extra demand and still meet those the deadlines and customer expectations around quality that you have built your brand around. But what's also really important about scalable production systems is not that they can just scale up, that's great, but they also need to scale back down when your business isn't as busy. And this is something else that we are able to do. So in terms of when now all of a sudden you've completed those projects and you've delivered based on that increased production demand, you can now also scale back down your production capacity. So in this way, you're helping to eliminate waste in the sense of not paying for a production system that you're not actively using at the time. And this really comes down, and this is made possible through our new very agile subscription models. So processing throughput and the automation is an important component to your overall delivery pipeline or production pipeline. However, anyone who works in the aerial surveying space will be able to tell you that very rarely, if ever, are you able to deliver a product without having to do some level of manual touch-ups or quality assurance. So that's another very important component, and often one of the bigger bottlenecks in many workflows based on the interviews and research that we have done in working very closely with different players in the space. So what we also deliver with our solution is not just the automated processing pipelines, but also the ability for you to process or perform the quality assurance in a way that optimizes the quality assurance steps, so allows you to create new efficiencies through our interactive quality assurance tools, as well as allowing you to democratize your quality assurance to make sure that you're maximizing the usage of your human resources or your personnel or your operators who are performing this work, as well as being able to meet tight deadlines and provide you with that competitive edge. So this we'll take a quick moment before we jump into the demonstration and just ask a very simple survey question. And this one is, does your organization conduct aerial surveys using imagery? So pretty simple, yes or no. So give me 2 seconds while I launch this poll. Okay, so once again, what you're seeing in front of you is just a very simple yes or no option. So the question once again is, does your organization conduct aerial surveys using imagery? So we just want to know if you're here to learn in general, or if you're actually currently working for an aerial processing organization. So we can see that we have a bit of a split. Definitely more people here that are actively working or from organizations where they actively process aerial imagery. So we'll let a few more of the votes come in. We have just over half of the people in the webinar have voted so far. Just so everyone's aware, we have yes is leading at 59%. And of course we have no, oh, yes just jumped. So kind of giving play-by-play action here. We'll give it another 10 seconds, and then we'll close the poll. So if you haven't voted yet, please enter your vote so we can record it and close it. So we'll close the poll in about 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to close this poll here. Thank you very much for voting, and let's just share the results. So we can see here that we have about 65% of the people actively work in organizations where they process aerial imagery, and about 35% are more likely just here to learn. Wonderful. Okay, so at this point, we're going to just move, before I hand things off to Griffin, who is really the star of the show and is going to go in and showcase to you our capabilities around Catalyst Enterprise. We just want to quickly highlight some of the things that I want you to pay attention to as Griffin is showcasing the demonstrations, some of the things that we want you to take away from this demonstration. So one is we're going to showcase an example of some high quality aerial ortho-mosaics and DEMs. This we think is very important for you to see, because what's ultimately important is customer satisfaction. Is that at the end of the day, you're delivering a product that you know the customer is going to be very pleased with, and is providing that provides ultimately a competitive edge. Now, what's also very important, probably just equally as important, is the process automation and efficiencies that we can help create to help generate that product at a lower cost point, which also gives a competitive edge both on your ability to provide a competitive price point, as well as making sure that you have a strong profit margin. So this is done through our process automations, as well as done through our quality assurance tools and the efficiencies that we drive through that. And once again, one of the underlying factors that we're going to emphasize here is the democratization of QA. And then we're going to touch a little bit on through this demonstration how the truly scalable aspects. So we're going to showcase this through a sort of a scenario-based example here. So with that, I'm going to hand things off to Griffin, who can take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate that. Just gonna get everything organized so that I can have my screen showing. All right, so thanks again for the introduction, Sean, and we're gonna get right into the demonstration today by looking at some of those high quality ortho-mosaic imagery results that we're able to generate using the Catalyst Enterprise processing system. So on the screen right now, I have a ortho-mosaic image in Malaysia. And we can see this image has a nice natural color tone to it. There are no obvious seam lines anywhere. So it's a nice, seamless, natural looking mosaic product. And I also have the DSM, digital surface model, that we were able to extract from the imagery. This DSM was created using our semi-global matching extraction technique, where we merge multiple views of the DSMs together. And that kind of creates that true ortho type of imagery. So if I have a little region here I want to zoom in on, right, we have this building here, and we can really see the quality of the edges and the lines of that building, right? They're nice and sharp, distinct building edges, and we can compare that obviously to the mosaic imagery. And because we used this quality of DEM, we don't get kind of any lean or bleeding effects on the ortho. So that's just a quick example of some of the high quality results that we're able to generate using the Catalyst Enterprise processing system. And so now we're going to get to the system itself. So as Sean had mentioned, the Catalyst Enterprise system is accessible through a web interface. It can be accessed by multiple users at the same time from different machines. So I'm just going to sign in here, but we could have multiple people working on different projects at the same time. And when you log into the system, you're taken to a page that shows you the history of all of the work and jobs that you've submitted to the system. But what I want to do is I want to create a new job, because as Sean mentioned, we're sort of gonna have a bit of a thought experiment with this one, and we'll pretend that I've just received a new processing contract to generate ortho-mosaic imagery, and I want to begin that processing right away so I can meet the deadlines of that new contract. So in the enterprise system, the first step would be to ingest the data. So I'm going to click on this data ingestion collection here, and this shows me the 4 different types of aerial data ingest that we're able to do in enterprise. So you would select the one from this list that's most relevant to your imagery. So in this case, I have a data set that I know has an okay initial estimate of its exterior orientation, but I know that I'm going to need to improve it with the collection of tie points. So I'm going to click the air photo ingest for AT job, and then within this job, I would set it up. I already have an example here of some imagery that I have. I just kind of pre-populated it, and you would specify quite simply in this web form the input scenes, where you want to put them, the camera calibration file, exterior orientation file, and as Sean mentioned, we're agnostic when it comes to AT sources, so we accept a wide variety and range of EO file types, so different omega phi kappa styles, yaw, pitch, and roll, bingo, etc. So we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. When it comes to those EO file options. So once I have the job all organized and ready to go, I can submit it, and then the job will automatically be sent to an available processing server to begin work right away. So right now we can see that the job state is still ready, which means that it hasn't started yet, obviously. And so I'm going to go look in the processing servers tab to see if the processing server is already being used. And sure enough, we have one processing server that we have licensed, and it's currently working at 87% load, and it has 7 jobs running on it right now. So in the past, this would be an example of a point where we'd have to make a difficult decision, and we'd have to decide whether to put off beginning this new project until this current process finishes, or prioritize my new project ahead of this one that's currently running in order to meet the deadline. But now, with the dynamic subscription-based licensing options that we offer, and the monthly subscription and yearly subscription choices, you can easily get in touch with the Catalyst team and license new processing servers to increase your capacity. So for example, I have over here, we'll just pretend that I've gone through that process. I've licensed another one of these processing servers. So I'm just going to boot it up here. And then as soon as this processing server is up and running, it's now licensed. We can see its status has changed to active, and jobs are already being distributed and sent to that processing server. So this is really just showing how easy it is to scale up your processing. You know, there's no stop to the initial workflow. The data that's already being processed continues to process. We've just added more capacity. And then, of course, once you're done meeting this increased period of demand and your subscription period comes to an end, then that server would become unlicensed again, and you would be back to your regular processing throughput. So that's a quick example of how the scalability works in the enterprise system. And so now I want to go to talk about the workflow a little bit. So the specific workflow that I will be working through with this imagery is to improve the AT. So the workflow would be to ingest the data and then collect the points. If you have reference imagery, say from perhaps a previous year's flight, or the customer you're working for has reference data, you could collect GCPs on them. If you don't have that kind of imagery, you can go straight to the tie point collection and refinement step, DEM extraction, orth rectification, and then mosaic preparation and mosaic generation as well. So that's just a standard kind of ortho-mosaic workflow for aerial imagery. And each of these processes can be run, individually one at a time, or they can be linked together to create a truly end-to-end and automated process. But of course, as Sean mentioned, at some points in the workflow, you may want to perform some quality assurance and quality control steps. And we have a suite of tools that help you make that process as quick and efficient as possible. So I will show you those in a quick moment. But one other thing I wanted to touch on before that is that these jobs themselves have been designed, and over years of experimentation have been refined as well to reduce the burden of QA on the user. So an example of that would be automatic point blunder point detection during tie point collection refinement. So we're automatically looking for those blunders and removing them as they come up, instead of putting that burden on the user. So these jobs have those kind of smart defaults to reduce the amount of time required in QA. So sort of following through logically here, I'm going to start with some editing tools for DEMs. So I'm just going to pull up a DEM here. Just get rid of that screen as well. So on my screen now, we have a digital surface model, or a digital terrain model, sorry, that's been filtered to remove the buildings and those sorts of features. But I can see here that there's a little, there are a couple of blunders in this section of the imagery, and I want to fix that. So what we can use are the DEM editing tools in Focus. And if I click on this little icon here to open the live ortho preview, I get a window that's opening on the right-hand side of the screen, which is going to show me, it's going to show me the imagery, the ortho imagery based on the current state of the DEM on the left. So as this opens up here, we can see, in this truck here has kind of a bit of a wave to it, and there's also in the road a bit of a bump there as well. So in the editing tools, I can easily digitize a polygon, just quickly make a shape here that covers that area. Just let's recenter this now. All right. And then I will choose an operation to remove the pits from a generally hilly scene. Just going to set the size here to something a little bit bigger. And then as I apply this edit to the DEM, we can see that it smooths out the image on the DEM, and it also automatically updates this live ortho viewer to show you what your ortho image is going to look like as a result of those changes. So just to run that back one more time, this is the image pre-update, so we can see the truck is doesn't have a nice clean line. It looks a little bit warped. But after we apply that edit, it automatically updates and snaps into those cleaner lines. So this is a great tool for giving you the confidence to be able to preview what your orthos will look like before you go and generate them. So you don't run into the process of, or the scenario rather, where you generate ortho imagery and then realize that there were errors in your DEM. We're able to fix that, give you a live preview right away, so you can have confidence going forward. So after you've edited that DEM and then you generated your orthos, in the enterprise system, we have another tool for accuracy assessment of your ortho imagery, and that's called the Automatic Accuracy Assessment job. And essentially what this job does is it will generate a report for the accuracy of all of your orthos. And those accuracies can both be absolute accuracies relative to a reference source. So if you have a reference image, we can get the absolute accuracy, and we can also measure the relative accuracy within a data set. So you can get a better idea of how well your orthos align with one another to get an idea of what your final mosaic quality will be. So you would fill out this job submission form, and then after you run it, it will generate an Excel file that looks something like this. And this file basically contains a report of the accuracy of your orthos. So it gives a list of all the images in your data set, how many checkpoints were created for them, what their root mean square error is, and some other statistical measures that may be of interest. And most importantly, it produces a really nice and simple flag column here, which shows you whether or not your imagery's error threshold is acceptable based on a particular range. So in this example, anything less than 1 is considered a pass. Anything between 1 and 2 in terms of RMS error is considered a warning, and 2 or higher is failed. And this is, like I said, we can quickly identify that, yes, in this example, most images passed, but there are a couple down here that have warnings. And then that kind of helps us identify which images we may need to spend a little bit of time editing, whether that be editing the DEM or going back to look at the model and the tie points or GCPs that were collected on that image. So just a quick way to view your ortho accuracy to give you the confidence to generate your mosaic and also to quickly identify any potential issues in your data set. So after we've done that, the next thing we'd want to do is generate our mosaic. And so this mosaic processing step is really where that democratization that Sean talked about really comes to shine. So here we can see I'm opening this mosaic. It's hosted on a shared drive. So we can see that this area in the bottom right-hand corner is blue. And that suggests to me that it's been blocked off. So if I try to click on that region, it tells me that it says locked by another user. So someone else in the company is already using this area and they're performing their edits in that region. So I will have to select a different area. But as Sean kind of mentioned, this is a very powerful tool for democratizing your QA, because I can work on this region of the imagery while someone else works on the bottom right corner, and someone else could work on the top right, and someone else could work on the bottom left. So if you have that, that kind of human resource power to perform all of those edits at the same time, the system allows us to do that, giving you kind of unparalleled efficiency in your mosaic processing. So in terms of mosaic editing tools that we have available here, one of the big ones would be color balancing. This image, however, is very well color balanced. Again, just like that image I showed you at the very beginning of the webinar, has nice natural looking color. There's no obvious color information along, color discrepancies along seam lines. So for example, if I zoom in down here, get a bit closer, and I turn off the cut line, it's not possible to tell where that cut line is placed. And that's all thanks to our state-of-the-art color balancing technique called the bundle method, which really gives unparalleled results for color balancing. But one of the things that we can do here in this example would be to edit the cut line location. Generally speaking, we don't like it when cut lines run through buildings. So we can see here we've got a couple cut lines that do intersect a building. So what I'm just going to do is quickly, I've selected the image where that cut line is from, and then using the vector editing tools, I can quickly and easily change that cut line so that it no longer intersects the buildings, and thus can create a seamless looking image, and account for any potential issues that might arise from having a cut line go through a building. So once you perform that sort of QA and you've determined the color balancing is appropriate and natural and the cut lines are placed appropriately, then what we can do is we can use the image status tool here to verify the image. And so that gives it this big, bright green kind of hue to it. And I'm going to do that for this whole region because this region is something that I've processed. I'm happy with it. And then when I save this project, this will now, when you open up the project in that overview, like I did initially, you'll see that this upper left-hand region is highlighted green. So then that would indicate to the rest of the folks that I'm working with that this region's already been processed and it's met the QA/QC standards for the project. And that way we don't end up with a case where someone is undoing edits or redoing an area that's already been done. So that's a quick example today of the Catalyst Enterprise processing system for aerial imagery. So we talked a little bit about how we can scale up and down, a little bit about the workflow, and how we can optimize your time spent doing QA, essentially to reduce the time you spend doing QA to increase that processing efficiency. So with that, kind of ends the demonstration. So I will throw it back to Sean at this point in time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. 2 seconds while I get my screen up. All right. Well, thank you very much, Griffin, and hopefully everybody can see my screen now. And just to do a quick recap, so we went through at the beginning of that demonstration and showcased an example of the types of quality you can expect in terms of the ortho-mosaicing and DEM workflow. And in that particular example, we showcased a true ortho-mosaic and a DSM of very high quality. Then we also showcased the process automation that can be performed by chaining together a variety of different steps within the workflow and automating many of those different steps, such as GCP collection from reference imagery that perhaps you acquired through the client or that you had from a previous flying season or survey that you conducted over the same area, as well as the tie point collection and blunder detection, the automatic online accuracy assessment of your ortho images, and then all of the process efficiencies that are required with the quality assurance or the interactive quality assurance, and how democratization can really help you speed up the process and deliver your products faster and without sacrificing quality. And then when we showcase the ability for you to add additional license to quickly turn on a new processing server or add new cores to an existing processing server in a very short turnaround, we showed you how you can very quickly increase your capacity. And then when the project's completed and perhaps if you just, depending on the subscription license, then scale back down to your normal production capacity so you're not paying for unnecessary production. So hopefully that's what you took away from that demonstration. Just to kind of hammer home a few value points that we really see and that we get feedback from our customer base is that the process automation and the efficiencies, once again, that we showcased through the demonstration are something that our customers have come to really love and expect from the Catalyst Enterprise. The industry leading quality, so the fact that we're using multi-look semi-global matching for our DEM extraction, DSM extraction in order to get those very highly accurate edges, the fast Fourier transform models we're using for our point collection and our blender detection algorithms, all of these things combined. So the science that's under the hood of the Catalyst Enterprise is what's able to help us deliver these results. But what I'm going to focus on very quickly before we end our webinar is the how we help, how our new packaging of Catalyst Enterprise helps to reduce risk, and then just once again reinforce the concept of true scalability. So we'll start off with true scalability and the concept of looking at this from an aspect of how much processing capability. And this particular scenario, this graph looks at throughput based on images per hour for the entire workflow. This is all the way from ingest through to the AT refinement, through to the orthorectification, the DSM extraction, the orthorectification, the mosaic generation. So this is the kind of throughput we were able to get with a large format camera. And depending on the individual cores, we were using the AWS, so we had deployed this in the cloud, which is another great opportunity in terms of how you can take advantage of this technology that makes it even more scalable, because now the hardware itself, resources, can be scalable as well. And this allows us to consider a simple scenario where perhaps your production requirements or your demand is, just go back. Your demand here is focused at around, say, 55 images per hour is really what you need to meet your project deadlines. But then let's say you win additional projects, or you want to go after more projects, and you need the ability to quickly turn up processing capacity. Well, we can deliver that to you by allowing you to quickly scale up and be able to now perhaps turn on more CPUs or license more CPUs, license more servers to distribute the project to, so that now perhaps you can increase to double your capacity of where you're at before. But then this is where once again, I can just reinforce this point, is that the true scalability doesn't come in with the ability just to scale up, but it also comes in with the ability to scale back down. So after the projects are done, so say after a month or so, you then decide that you don't have that extra demand and you can go back to your original processing throughput, or perhaps to some lower level along this line. So we can help work with you to help you be more agile and make sure that your project, or make sure that your processing capacity can really scale based on the natural fluctuations you have in demand throughout the year. The other benefit to that is reducing the risk. So by adding more flexibility, by allowing you to obtain Catalyst Enterprise through subscription models, monthly and annual models, by licensing by cores, by implementing in the cloud, and by still giving you the option to implement on site. This really takes, by giving you this more flexible approach to accessing our technology, it really can reduce the risk that you take on. For example, making a big upfront purchase of a system is a bit of a risk, because you hope that you can get the project and the demands to see the ROI of that purchase within a period of time. But now with subscription-based modeling, you can now incorporate this into your operational expenses, your OpEx, and you can really allow your demand to drive your capacity, your production requirements. And once again, that is a major way to reduce risk for active processing centers, as well as new startups, where once again, making a big investment without knowing that they're going to have continuous work can be a stressful situation. So this can really help alleviate and eliminate some of those risks. So we'll finish off here with a final survey question. So what we'd like to understand is how much, in terms of your image processing requirements, how much does your image processing requirements fluctuate throughout the year? So this is a multiple choice question, so I'm just going to launch it here in a quick second. So the possible answers are yes, you experience a lot of fluctuation throughout the years, or throughout a year, or somewhat you experience some fluctuation throughout the year, and then finally, no, you have very steady business, and the ability to scale is not as important, because your business is incredibly stable throughout the year. And then you can also consider this from even between years as well. It's just, in general, do you find your business scales? Do you find that there's a fluctuation? So as we're collecting these results, right now I can tell you have about 58% of the people have said yes. You experience a large demand fluctuations. 26 people have said somewhat, And then 15% have said, nope, our processing demand is consistent throughout the year. So please get your votes in. We'll keep this survey question open for another, let's say, 10 seconds or so to get the final few votes in. And then we'll proceed. We'll move on to finish up our webinar. Okay, so we'll give it another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so please, if you haven't got your votes in, get it in now because we're closing the survey. So let's just quickly share the results here. So you can see that 54% in the end said yes, you experience a lot of demand fluctuation. 31% said somewhat, and 15% no, you have very stable processing demand throughout the year. Okay, so continuing back, so we're just on the final few slides here. So we're just going to really at the end, actually, we're about to get to our Q&A session. So if you have any questions about what we showed today or anything else around our product lines, please enter your questions into the questions panel. So first off, before we get into that, if you want to learn more about our Catalyst Enterprise, and so you go to our catalyst.earth. So you can just go to there and navigate to our Catalyst Enterprise page through the products dropdown, or you can go to this link directly. And then once you're there, if there's lots of very useful information directly within that page, but if you don't find exactly what you're looking for, please just submit a request a demo, and we'll happily get our team, such as Griffin, on the phone with you and on a meeting with you to explain more about Enterprise and set up a demonstration. So we would love to talk to you. Okay, with that, we're going to open up the lines to some Q&A. So if you have any questions, so just a reminder to ask your questions, please use the GoToWebinar questions panel and type your questions in here. Okay, so we'll just give it a few more minutes for a couple questions to come in. Okay, so we have a couple questions at this point. The first one that I'm just going to get to is, so this one I think would be good for Griffin. Just find it. So how many people can edit the Mosaic at one time? When you showed that democratization and the ability for you to access a specific area.
Yeah, so I guess there's not really like a known limit or a hard cap on the number of people. Definitely, we've had up to 6 people as the most that I've kind of done a live test with before. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have more. It's sort of more of a question of what the what your bandwidth is like across the network and how quickly you're able to that kind of speed quality. If that's not very good, then obviously you're not gonna be able to have as many people working. But we've definitely had up to 6 people in the past do it, but that is by no means a hard limit.
Okay, wonderful. So we have another one. So this one I think is directed at me. So hi, Sean. Does Catalyst have oblique camera, AT, and DSM generation support? So our main support is for nadir-based cameras, but we'd love to understand a little bit more about the type of specific data sets you're working with. So please feel free to come chat with us, and we can learn more about your sensor and help determine if this is the right system for you. Another question just came in. So you only showed cut line editing within the Mosaic Editing tool. So what other kinds of capabilities do you have for editing the Mosaic?
Of course. So at that point, using the Mosaic preparation tools, we have the ability to do color balancing. So with that bundles method, that we use for that, we can add in dodging points along those seam lines to help generate the seamless imagery. If it's not already done automatically, you can kind of make your own additional edits that way. And we also have within the Mosaic tool the option to use what's called the Mosaic Geofill tool. And using that tool, we can highlight different areas by digitizing a polygon. And then you can select an image from all of the available images in the project to kind of paste that image into your project. So that's something that, for example, if you have a building which has a bit of lean to it, you could digitize a polygon over that region and then flip through all the available images to find one that's more nadir looking and then put that image in instead to kind of get rid of that effect. So those are some of the tools within the Mosaic editor, but also we have post-Mosaic editing options using Smart Geofill, which is sort of a similar concept to that Mosaic Geofill tool, but you can put in images from other that are outside of your own data set that you're currently working with there as well.
Wonderful. So this is the last question I think we'll have time for today. So this one is really just more around, we showcase the support for scaling up and down in terms of adding new licenses through the subscriptions, but what about the hardware? So this is actually a really interesting point in that our solutions team can work directly with you to figure out the best way to allow you to meet these seasonal demands. So if you have the hardware capacity to have a few different Catalyst Enterprise servers already pre-installed and just on standby, ready for a license to take work when needed, that's one option for an on-premise solution. Another option is, and that we're seeing a lot of our clients are starting to move towards, is deploying it in the cloud. And this gives you the ability to add new hardware resources and quickly license those resources on a much more agile basis. There's also the ability, depending on your processing throughput, that we can license by the actual cores of an individual processing server. So if you have, for example, a large core processing server, we can limit the number of cores depending on so that it meets the throughput requirements that you have, and then add or license more cores as your demand fluctuates. So really, in the end, we have a lot of different ways to meet this requirement, and our solution engineers, such as Griffin, will be happy to work with you to make sure that we implement the best way based on your organization's requirements. All right, so with that, we just want to do a final thank you for joining our webinar and being with us here today and taking this time out every day. We hope you found value in this and better understand a little bit more about Catalyst Enterprise, how it can be utilized and leveraged for aerial survey image processing, and then of course, a better understanding of our different licensing models and deployment models and how that can help benefit your business. So with that, we'd just like to thank you again on behalf of Catalyst, and yeah, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks for coming, everybody.